Tracy DeMario, and I am an independent Sensi Superstar Director located out of Missouri. And tonight we're going to be discussing fundraisers and events. I'm going to skip through here real quick. Okay, a little bit about this call. We're going to be talking a lot about both fundraisers and events, the benefits of doing both of them, what the expenses should be considered, what needs to be taken into consideration before you start these, what you need to have them done, and why and how you can get organized and you can benefit your business with both fundraisers and events. And we're also going to touch on the policies and procedures to be sure that everybody understands the appropriate manner in which events should be handled as well. Fundraisers are a really great source of exposure and an excellent opportunity for you to give back. It's going to help out a great cause, and there's a variety of causes of people that are always looking to earn income and earn money for a variety of reasons. They're a great way for you to get your name out to a group of people that you probably would not have had another opportunity to ever know. It's also a great way to expand your business to multiple states. Oftentimes you're going to have people that are going to order from you, aunts, uncles, cousins, relatives of both adults and children in different organizations that will then have your contact information that not only can become a long-term customer, but you can also make a potential recruit or even host an online or long-distance basket party for you. Since fundraisers we don't have a corporate fundraising program, every fundraiser can be consultant to consultant and can be different. So we're going to go through and give you some ideas on how you can operate your fundraisers. However, keep in mind, you're welcome to do it your way or take some of this information and change it up. What most people use is what corporate offers us is a fundraising catalog. I call it a fundraising slick. It's available for you to purchase should you want to. It looks very nice, high gloss, very professional, similar to what you would find that most students would bring home if they were selling cheese and sausage, cookie dough, and that sort of thing. They also have fundraiser order forms, fundraiser envelopes, and there's a fundraiser cover letter that is written by Heidi and Orville, should you want to include that as well. So those are the things you can actually purchase from corporate, should you choose to, or you can do some of this on your own and kind of do your own thing with it too. Who to target for a fundraiser? Well, there's really no person that you shouldn't. Very common organizations are your PTOs or your PTAs. High school band groups, that could also be, you got your band boosters, you've got your wrestling boosters, your football boosters, civic groups. I know some of these might seem really obvious, but there's other ones as well. People who are raising funds to maybe do a marathon, or maybe they are trying to get an accessible vehicle. I know a consultant that a year or so ago was helping an individual with MS get the funding to help secure the accommodations that needed to take place in their vehicle. So that is something that you can do as well. There's really nothing is off limits. Another thing that's a great idea, and we can talk about this a little bit later in the PowerPoint, is if there's existing fundraisers already happening, you can tap into those as well. If someone's having a chili dinner for someone at your church, that's a great opportunity for you to go and to set up and do a one-time fundraiser to try to help that cause. How to approach them. If you're looking into just getting some fundraisers without that personal contact already known to you, then one way is to send a letter to possibly the fundraising representatives on the parent-teacher organizations, if you find out who the band booster president is, and that sort of thing. Another is to physically walk in with the product and do a little product demo. I definitely recommend when you have a group that actually meets on a regular basis, oftentimes they'll meet on a monthly basis, if you could get a slot on their agenda where you could go and just do a really quick 5 to 10 minute little demo on that, I think you'd find it to be very helpful, and that way they can see the product, the quality of the product, and you have a group of people that can help make a decision on whether or not they think it would be a good fit. You definitely want to pitch the benefits of organizing a Sensi fundraiser. I know personally here in Missouri, a lot of our schools sell the trash bags, the cookie dough, the cheese and sausage, and while I continue to purchase it on a regular basis every time someone comes to my door, it would be nice to have something new, different, and of good quality and value that I actually would like to use and consume. And that's one of the benefits we have of a Sensi fundraiser. out here. Some things you want to consider. You will build a really great customer base. You can also write up your donation to the non-for-profit organization, and when you do that, you definitely want to get a receipt of that to keep for your taxes. You can also use it as an advertising expense as well, so keep those things in mind. If you're doing a fundraiser to make a lot of cash, you're doing it for the wrong reason. You really should genuinely want to help that organization. And you're going to determine how much commission, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, you want to give back. But really the idea is to be able to be a part of something where you can help out a great cause. And in the same it's going to come back to you at some point. Don't ever underestimate the amount of work that's involved. Fundraisers can be a lot of work on the front end, and that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit more as well. You are the host whenever you turn and redeem these orders in. So you earn all the free and the half-price items that you can keep for yourself and resell at 50% and 100% cost, or you could donate those as well. That's totally up to you and is done consultant to consultant basis. The expenses included in doing a fundraiser is going to be your marketing expenses, if you have those, your business supplies that you'll need to purchase, any incidentals you may give to the participants, and all extras you're going to put in the bags when delivering items, such as samples, catalogs, buy, host, and join brochures, etc. Okay, how does it work? Consultants choose to donate a percentage of their commission to the organization or group. If you're a certified consultant, then you're at a 25% commission rate. And you can decide if you want to donate 10% of that back to the organization or 100% of that. It's completely up to you. Personally, I always donate 100% of my commission back. I also tell my group that in the event they get $2,000 or more of cumulative sales, they will get an additional 5% bonus, giving them a 30% commission, and 100% of that would go back to their organization. For those of you that are new with Sensi, on any given month, if you have 2,000 PRV, you then get a 30% commission. So that's how you would be able to do that. And that's important that you explain that with the organization. Consultants will write a check and get a receipt from the group for their donation. And like I said, the donation is tax deductible. How to get it executed. Setup is very much like a very large basket party. You want to give each participant a packet and some basket testers if you choose to. I have never done a large school fundraiser personally. So when I've done mine, I've been dealing mainly with adults. I did one small fundraiser with students, and I did not give them basket testers. So that's up to you how you would want to do that. And you want to keep that in mind when you're deciding what the group looks like and the dynamics of the group, how you want to set up your packets and so forth. You want to set up a party-type meeting, if at all possible, with the parents or the participants. That way they can experience the scents, you can explain the product line, let them know how long they can expect the candle bars to last, some of the frequently asked questions that they're going to get as they are selling this product. Another option is to host a really big party. And this would be 10 to 20 guests per participant or multiple smaller parties. And I personally have not done this. However, I know that there's others in our group that this is how they have done some. One individual I know, she had some missionaries that were each individually trying to raise funds to help cover the cost of their missionary work. And therefore, there was 7 of them trying to fundraise. So she set up 7 different parties, one for each of the missionaries and their friends and family to come and attend. She did the parties and then donated back a commission to those individual missionaries towards what they were trying to accomplish. A great way to get a lot of participation with less effort on a fundraiser is if they have an annual event that's taking place. For example, maybe it's their annual holiday concert for the band. If they would let you set up a cash and carry booth, that would be a phenomenal way for you to have a lot of people coming in and purchasing the product right there, and then you could donate a percentage of your sales from that evening to their organization. So that's a great way to get a lot of people that are already planning to attend an event to pay attention to what your purpose is. And of course, you'd want to be sure that you had really good signage letting everyone know that you were there and you were donating your commission to the organization. Okay, what to put in your participant packets. Fundraiser catalogs is an option. Remember, in the fundraising catalog, there's no multi-packs, but you can print out a multi-pack sheet and attach it if you would want to. Some consultants prefer to use the Scentsy catalog. In my opinion, if you're dealing with younger people, the fundraiser catalogs are perfect, the flyers that you can purchase from Scentsy, because they're simple and they're easier to understand. However, when I've done my fundraisers with adults, I prefer to use the full catalog. They're accustomed to doing book parties with other brands, and therefore it gives them a lot more options, a lot more information, and I haven't had any difficulty in working fundraisers using the full catalogs. So keep that in mind. Obviously, on the number of participants, the Scentsy catalog, should you choose to use the full catalog, is going to be more expensive as well. So keep that in mind when you're trying to make that decision. I do use the fundraiser order forms, and I typically personally put 3 of those in each packet. The fundraiser envelope, I do use the ones from Scentsy, but you most definitely could just go and purchase a generic 8.5 by 11 envelope and put a label on the outside of it if you'd want to. The Scent and the Warmer of the Month flyer is optional. If you would want to participate with that, you could use that. A sheet describing the product line and how it works. And we actually have a frequently asked question document that should be on the iMatch list page that you could print off and use that if you would want to. Info about how the fundraiser is set up online and how to invite their non-local friends and family. I always recommend with any party, whether I'm doing a fundraiser, home, basket party, to always set up an online event for your host, and in this case for the fundraiser, because that's only going to increase their opportunity to reach out to people who are not local. So be sure there's some information on that. A sample order form with the tax and shipping information. Info about what kind of payments are accepted and when delivery will be expected. And some also include the buy, host, and join flyers. Personally, I wait and put those in the bags with the purchase, but that's up to you if you would want to include those up front. You want to be sure that you're very firm on setting up a timeline in advance. I do not recommend that you leave it open for more than 2 weeks. And it is best to end fundraisers at the end of the month so that the specials don't change during the fundraiser and so the earnings can be paid with the delivery of the product. Remember, our commission is posted on the 10th, so you're going to want to be real upfront and open and honest with the organizer of the fundraiser that you will be providing them with their commission that you're donating back to them once you receive it between the 10th and 12th of the month. Now, we always get paid on the 10th. However, if you're dependent on waiting for those funds to go into your checking account, it can take a couple days for that to take place. So give yourself some grace time and make sure they understand that until you get paid on your commission, you will not be donating their funds up front. How to enter the fundraiser. You want to be sure and break it into $400 increments. This is going to help you maximize the half-price items. We always get 15% free on $400 increments, so that's not really going to help you so much, but it will help you to increase your half-price items. To be sure that you understand, for example, if you had a total fundraiser of, let's just say, $805, if you put that all in under one order, you're only going to receive the half-price items as if you put it in one order. And what that would mean to you is 3 half-price items. If you put in one order at $400 and one order at $405, now you're looking at 6 half-price items. So be sure that you do that so you can take full advantage of your host rewards. And this is something that this individual who created, we did this as a group, this PowerPoint. Their recommendation is to label each order with a number at the end of the party name and put all orders from the party in an envelope with the same number on it for sorting purposes. I have not done that, but if that might be helpful to you, then you could try that as well. How to sort and deliver. Consultants generally have all the product delivered to them for local fundraisers. And you can look at this a couple of ways. When I've had smaller fundraisers, I always have them delivered to my home, and I usually get a team together and we just sort them out with my family. However, if it was a big school fundraiser, you might want to consider having it sent directly to the school and then having a set time where maybe the student council members or the cheerleaders, or if it's the band, some of the band members, set up an assembly line with all of the product, with your labels and so forth, and work it that way, because I cannot begin to imagine if you had a huge fundraiser how you possibly would find the space in your home to really pull that off. So keep all that in mind on the logistics when you're thinking about that. Obviously, you want to sort, label everything, and have it delivered by the participant that did the fundraiser. And label, 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 again, we want to reemphasize that because that is absolutely critical, because that is the benefit of doing this fundraiser, is getting your information in the hands of people you would not come in contact with. If they don't have your information for future reorders, or when they go home and plug in their first-time Scentsy warmer and realize how much they love it and decide they want to sell it, and they don't have your contact information, they're going to find somebody else down the road. So be sure that you do that. I personally put a catalog and my business card with a scent sample with every single order. Again, that's up to you, but that's what I do. I've often found when customers make a purchase from me at an event or a fundraiser, they go home, and once they start using it, they love it, and they're eager to think of other people they would want to purchase it for or additional items for their home. And definitely write thank you notes to all the non-local customers and business with a business card or a catalog. So if people have gone online and ordered from this fundraiser, it's really important that you send them a thank you note with your business card and a catalog, again, for the same reason of those that you're giving the product to. It's a good idea to do a follow-up call after delivery to the fundraiser contact person, and of course follow up with a thank you card or a letter. Oh, before I cover this, I wanted to just mention on the payment situation, I definitely highly recommend that you have all checks, if you decide to take checks, if you and the organizer discuss this, that all checks are made payable to the actual organization, and then you would just take either one credit card, cash, or one check from the organizer. So I definitely would recommend you doing that as well. I'm going to look over here at the questions before we start on events real quick, and then we will have time at the end for Q&A. But someone asked, can you email this PowerPoint to us, and it will be posted for you to have access to that as well, either on the iMatchless site or on the Facebook groups. Another question, I'll cover some of these real quick. What incentives can we offer to children that really want to sell? Hang on one second. When you got to look at your group to find out who the group is and who's going to be doing the selling. If you're working with elementary students, they may or may not get very excited about Scentsy products. Our Scentsy Buddies are popular, but it may not have the same value as, saying, the class with the highest sales gets a pizza party at Chuck E. Cheese, or maybe a gift card to the top seller at Chuck E. Cheese. So you do need to keep those things in mind. I know for high school students, iTunes cards are huge. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So definitely cater your gifts and your prizes to, who they are. I know I did one once where I did for the teacher, the classroom that had the best sales. We did a Chuck E. Cheese pizza party, and I gave the teacher a Scentsy system, which at that time included a full-size warmer and 3 candle bars. And that was really, they were excited about it. When I do my fundraisers in the past, what I've done is for every participant that brings back an order, I give them a scent circle. So if they have an order and they return it back to me, they're going to get a scent circle just for participating. And then I did mine in increments of, if you did $500 in sales, you get blank. If you did $1,000 in sales, you get blank. And then top seller gets blank. And again, you want to determine those prices based on who your audience is that's selling them. And you can discuss that with the organizer as well. I give 100% of my commission, but I also keep the majority of my free and half price items for myself. I may use them for incentives if it's appropriate on prizes, but it's appropriate because it's elementary students that aren't going to get excited about Scentsy products, then I would keep all of those for myself, use my cash to purchase those prizes, and then resell the items that I got for free and half price at future events. So you have to figure out what works best for you. Okay, let's see. I have a couple other questions, and then we're going to move on to events, and we'll come back to this. Okay, here. Is it okay to do Scentsy fundraisers long distance with friends in other states? Absolutely. It would look no different other than you wouldn't personally be there to do a demo for them. There's a couple options to that. I am not real techy, but I know many consultants have now gotten into the Ustream type thing or the Skype type setting, and they've been able to even host parties in other states via that avenue. So if that's something you're comfortable with, you could definitely do that as well. But definitely, I did a church group, and we did online fundraisers. So I never made packets or anything up for them at all. They did it strictly online. I had several different names. I put it by their names, and then they targeted their friends and families. And when they made purchases from their parties, then at the end I donated it. So there's a lot of different ways you can do fundraisers, and they can be very successful. And I assure you, if you do a good job and you take good care of them, then you can get some really great leads for future bookings and for recruits, because it's a numbers game. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to go home. They're going to love it. They're going to call you. They're going to want to sell it. They're going to want more. It's a great opportunity for you to continue to build your business. Okay, let's get started on events so we can get through here and allow some time for questions and answers. Why to do events? Well, it's probably pretty obvious. Great opportunities to get bookings, recruiting, and build a customer base. And the right event is great for cash and carry sales. There are times when we cannot do cash and carry, and we're going to discuss that here to be sure everybody understands that. What are the expenses? Well, obviously you've got a booth fee, and those can vary from $10 and up. My very first show was at a church, and I paid $10 for the table. So you can find very inexpensive opportunities, and obviously there are some that are quite costly and may or may not be worth your while. So those are all things you want to take into consideration. You definitely want to ask about electricity. There are some events that is not an option, and some events you pay extra for. So you want to be sure you're really clear and upfront with that. Your marketing materials, your banners, displays. Some events require liability insurance, so you want to check on that for sure. They would have that in the vendor packet that they would give you if they did require it. And this here is the company that Sensi refers consultants to, www.pro for us, if you were interested in looking for them. You could also do some searches online or contact your local insurance person and see if they have some liability insurance options for you. If you could plan to do a lot of events, you may want to go ahead and proceed with liability insurance regardless whether or not the event coordinator requires it or not. You may have travel, food, and lodging. And if you're going to do cash and carry, then obviously you're going to have the expenses of the products to do. Okay, inventory and displays. You want to find out what kind of event it is to determine what type of products you want to carry. For example, I just recently did an outdoor and gun show. Well, I sell a lot of Yukons, Wranglers, Rustic Stars, and Lodge Warmers at that event. I also do a women's show in the summer months, and at those events, I rarely sell any of those warmers. So it does depend on the crowd that's going to be your main customer base at events, what type of products you want to carry. So you want to keep that in mind. You do want to ask your promoter the average event traffic. If it's a new show, it's kind of a hard one. You just kind of go with your best effort, what you can do. But if it's a show that's been around a while, you want to kind of get an idea of what their traffic has been so you have some idea on what to expect and what to purchase. And again, we can't tell you how much and what to purchase. That is something that you're just going to get better at. The more you do shows, you're going to have a better feel for what moves and what doesn't move. I do recommend, however, if you want to know what product or ones that Sensi as a whole sells, then you should check out the Consultant Spotlight newsletter on your workstation. It's located under Resources. And every month they have a whole page dedicated to the top-selling room sprays, full-size warmers, mid-size warmers, bars, so forth. So that will give you a good idea of the popular items which you probably would want to stock up on as well. Keep your display simple. I tell you this really does make a difference. I know sometimes we can get excited on foo-fooing things up to the point where you can't even see the warmers on the table, and that can make a difference. So you want to be sure that the purpose of your display is that customers come by and they actually see the warmers and the wax and not all the foo-foo pretty stuff that's irrelevant and that you're not selling. So keep it simple. Have a good selection of products. I definitely recommend when I do mine, I keep all of my full-size warmers as my primary selection, and that's what I really want them to focus on. And then I have a few mid-size warmers, and I have my plug-ins that I happen to keep back behind me when I do my events, because I don't want that to be the first thing they see and or ask about and decide to purchase, I really want them to get the best possible experience with Scentsy, and that's going to be with our full-size warmers. So I keep those out front, and then I use the other products as upsells. Oh, do you need a scent circle for your car? Would you like to add a plug-in for $20? So that's how I do it. I also only put the testers on the table for the candle bars I have in stock. So, for example, if I have 42 different candle bar scents in stock, I would only have those 42 testers on my table, so that when customers decide what they like, they're actually going to get what I have in stock. If they ask me, well, do you have, lilacs and violets, and I don't have it, and I have the tester, I'll still let them smell it, and if they want to order it from me, then that's great. But most of the time, customers are happy with, if you have some variety, just purchasing what you have there. Some people like to offer a drawing prize to gather leads. There's a couple ways you can do this. When I first started, I used to put the drawing box on my table, and I just had a little setup display so people could just fill it out. I didn't really talk to them much. There wasn't a lot of interaction. People would just come by independently, fill out the slips, and drop them in. Sometimes the kids would fill one out for their aunt, their uncle, their grandma, everybody in their family, dropping them in my box. And what I found most of the time, I ended up with a name and a phone number. Not a lot of information that was going to help me. And I ended up with a lot of the same people, like I said, every family member they've ever had listed in there. So I decided to change it up. And it's up to you. You need to do what works best for you. But what I do now a lot of times is I will just put the drawing slip pads on the table. I don't have a box. So I have 2 or 3 just laid out on my table with a pen. And naturally what happens is when they're at my table, they will ask me, oh, are you giving something away? Is this for something free? So I'll tell them, yes, I'm going to be giving away a plug-in and a candle bar at the end of the show. If you would like to fill it out, that would be great. And while they're filling it out, I'm talking to them. Are you familiar with Scentsy? Do you own a Scentsy warmer? And based on the information they give me, I can then use that to talk about, oh, well, no problem. You can't afford one today. I understand, but we can have a party and get it for free. Be sure you mark the little host a home party on your drawing form. And I make sure that if they did not put an email address, then I specifically say to them, would you please include your address so I can send you our monthly specials? And 9 times out of 10, because I asked them to, they will give me an email address. And by doing it that way, I have found I'm getting a lot more information than I want. I'm able to engage with them, have a lot more conversation that's leading me to parties and to recruiting opportunities. So you might try that and see which way you think works best for you. And obviously you definitely want to spotlight the recruitment and the hosting opportunities in your display setup. Really important that you do that. I think one of the best investments, if you could only buy one banner from Scentsy, it would be the $99 banner. So if you have the means to do so, make sure you get that one. It's really not important whether it's personalized or not personalized. Honestly, nobody's ever walked up, looked at my banner, and wrote my name and number down that moment. So don't get hung up on that part. Just get that banner. As far as the hosting opportunities, you can do some display if you want to. I always keep a set of my mini testers behind my table so that when the conversation comes up about home party and maybe they say, oh, I work too much, I have a small apartment, whatever they might say, I can say, oh, no problem, we can do a bag party. And I whip out my mini testers and I explain to them how easy and how simple it is to do that as well. So just keep that in mind as well. And I know there's a couple questions, and I will get to those here in a minute. These are some display pictures of another consultant that was shared with us, and so we just put these in there. You can kind of see how they did it. And these are the old party testers, but again, these are just the pictures that Diane put in the PowerPoint because they were available to her. Okay, how to find events. This is a question that's commonly asked. You really just got to get on the internet and spend some time. I was fortunate that my husband took on this role, and so he did a lot of the groundwork for me. But here's some ideas on keywords: craft fair, festival, trade shows, women's expos, home and garden shows, state fairs, etc. Make sure the events aren't fine arts or handcrafted events, because these type of events will not allow Scentsy consultants. You can also check out websites like fairs and festivals and I know eventlister.com as well. And both of those, I believe, have a free trial that you can start out with. Local newspapers or county websites work great too. And ask non-local friends and family to gain greater exposure and team growth. You know, if you've got people that don't live here, but maybe they live in another state or so forth, or maybe another part of the state, it's a great opportunity to not only get in a visit with them, but maybe their area doesn't have, you know, a lot of consultants in it, and it'd be a great opportunity for you to go and build your team somewhere else. Also, if you are at an event, that's a great place to say, you know, where are you going next? What events have you found to be great or really good? And talk to them as well. Recently, I know I've had a few consultants tell me, and one of my directors, that she's been hosting their own little events. You know, she's got a group of people that sell different products, and so a couple times a year they put together their own event and invite their customer bases, and they're doing quite well with it. Okay, what to look for in an event. What is the booth fee? And again, the most expensive doesn't necessarily mean the better, because you want to keep all of this into consideration, especially if you're a new consultant. You know, don't stress out on not having the biggest, the best event in town. Again, my first event cost me $10. I had 6 warmers, 22 bars. And that day, I did a little over $200 in sales, and I ended up with a recruit. So it was a great day and a great way to spend $10. So do not get discouraged if you don't have the means to do any big elaborate shows when you start out. A good question to ask is, again, how many years has this event taken place? You will find that once a show has a really good reputation and once it has happened time and time again, you're going to do better every year with that. Again, demographics and dynamics, that can make a huge difference on the type of product that you want to take. Also, how many attendees are expected? We talked about that. The liability insurance, you want to make sure you're clear on that. Is it a buying crowd, and why are they there? And I say this because we have some really big home shows in our neighborhood, and they cost a lot of money to get into the home shows. But what I've found to be true, and why I personally have not done one, I know others that have, is that why they have a lot of people that walk through, they're not coming through to separate with their money. That's not an event they go to thinking I'm going to be buying stuff and spend money. Versus like a holiday mart or, you know, a holiday show, people are going with the idea of I'm going to be buying things. You know, I'm going to get gifts. I'm going to take care of my holiday shopping. So it's important that you kind of take that in consideration when you're making your choice. Again, we talked about the electricity. How many days and what are the hours of the events? Are the restrooms provided? And that can be really interesting depending on where you are and what the booth setup's like. Some of the small rural county fairs, again, can be quite interesting. So there's a lot of questions you always want to think about that you cover. An event can be very different from year to year, and this is so true. Perfect example, this past weekend we did an event that worked out to be really well this year, but last year when we did it, there was an ice storm the same weekend of our event, and therefore, you know, it wasn't the promoter's fault, it was no one's fault, it was circumstances that was beyond anybody's control, and so I had a lot of product, and there was no one coming to that show. So you have to understand that not every show is going to be a home run. In fact, there can be some bombs, so you have to be prepared. Can I afford to do that, taking that chance? And that's really important that you keep that into consideration. Do your homework on the event. Again, unfortunately, not everybody is always honest. I have had another consultant in my downline who once spent $500 on an event that was never going to happen. Ended up, they went to court, several vendors all went to court, and they did get their money back, but it took quite some time and a lot of phone calls, a lot of headache, and a lot of heartache. So you want to check the reputation of the people you're doing business with, especially if it's a large dollar amount. We talked about, as far as don't go in with a preconceived idea of what your sales will be. You do want to look at the big picture. You can get a lot of exposure, a lot of sales, and a lot of recruiting. That's how I've built my business primarily, is from working events. And again, we discussed this. Don't do an event if you aren't willing to take a total loss on it, because truly, when we did that event last year, this time, during that ice storm, it was a huge loss. So you've got to understand that too. And remember, if you're doing outdoor shows in the summer months in an area that gets hot, like here in Missouri, wax does melt, so you need to have a plan for that. You need to definitely have a plan to be ready for that. If you can have inventory, people prefer it. You'll do better with cash and carry, but don't keep that. If you have an opportunity to set up an event and you do not have the means to do cash and carry, then definitely take the spot, take the slot, and really promote the home parties, the basket parties, and the recruiting. You can still walk away. There are some teams that do a lot of events, and they never carry cash and carry at them, and they can walk away with 15, 20 bookings. So don't say no to a friend or family member or someone that invites you in at a very low cost if you have an opportunity to set up. Don't try to do an event by yourself. You can't leave the booth, and you can only talk to one person at a time. And this is so true. If at all possible, try to always have someone with you. The worst thing in the world is when you're talking to someone who comes up and asks you about the business opportunity, and you're wanting to tell them all the wonderful reasons why they want to join Sensi, and then you've got somebody next to you saying, do you have Clean Breeze? Do you have Mediterranean Spa? What's the name of this warmer? You know, it just really makes it very difficult, and if you don't capture people at that time, obviously they may decide to leave or feel like you didn't give them the time and attention that they deserved. So try to always have someone else in the booth with you too. You need to book your events ahead of time. Many are booked for months and even a year ahead, so keep that in mind whenever you're looking for events, and don't be discouraged if when you initially start, a lot of them say they already have a Sensi consultant. We have a great opportunity with a new brand and another new brand happening in the fall. So a lot of things are going to be opening up, and you want to just keep plugging away and realize, too, new events are created all the time. And make sure that you consider the expense of events. And do consider they can be very time and energy, very exhausting, but they can also be well worth it. And I know I've had consultants try events. They love them. They say they'll never do anything else. They love doing business that way. I've had others do an event and say, oh, my gosh, never again, no way. So sometimes you just got to jump in and see if it's right for you. Some of the supplies that are suggested, a lot of these are obvious. One of the ones I want to be sure to point out to you is be sure that you have some form to process your credit cards. That's really important, because if you do not, and you're just writing down the credit card information, you're giving customers $75 for the Sensi product, they go home and give you a bad credit card number and don't return your call, that's an additional expense you've got to write into that event. So consider getting some form of credit card processor. I know a lot of people use SquareUp. You can go to squareup.com to get additional information for that. If you're doing a lot of events with large volume, I personally go through Costco's credit card merchandising for their credit card processing. So just, do some comparison shopping and determine what you think is a good fit for you. The preparation timeline, a month in advance, you want to be sure you've got any Sensi Success items that you're going to need, such as the banners and tablecloths. And, you don't have to have a tablecloth that says Sensi on it. When I first started, I went to Walmart and I bought twin flat black sheets for $5 a piece. They work great. They worked great for tablecloths. They worked great to cover up my items when I was done for the evening for indoor events. So you don't have to have all the bells and whistles with your first event. You want to order all of your literature, your inventory, and make sure you have plenty of bags. Some people like to label everything as it comes in. You have to do what's best for you. As a superstar director, I trade a lot of products with a lot of my team, and therefore I do not label things as it comes in because I do so many trades with people, and I've really got a really quick system down. I can label everything up while I'm at the event quite nicely. So if that is appropriate for you to do, then that's great. Scent samples are your best friend. Absolutely positively make sure you have plenty of scent samples. And have your recruit, host baskets, basket party, and I include fundraising packets as well. Be sure you have those in the event you have that opportunity. 1 week in advance, if you've never set up for your event, they recommend that you lay out your space at your home and begin packing and alphabetizing your products as you go, which will help for setup. Policies and procedures, I'm going to go through these pretty quick because we do have another webinar that's immediately following this one as well. But there is one consultant per event, no exception policy. So you can work a booth with your teammates in the same booth, but there can't be two consultants with two separate booths. So, for example, if I am at one event and then Joe Smith shows up and is at another end of the tent, that would not be okay. It's the first consultant who registered appropriately and who paid in full who has the right to stay. So really important. And on the application, you want to be sure that you fill it out as independent Sensi consultant and clearly state that you're representing Sensi in the booth. It will ask you what items you plan to sell, and you want to be sure you've made it very clear in bold what items you're going to sell. The promoters and the coordinators, some are very friendly about enforcing our policy, and others just do not care. They just want to book as many people as possible. So it's important that you make sure that you're very firm and you make it very apparent, the policy, and that you make sure you document your information and you keep copies as well. As a consultant, Cincy allows you to sell products on a cash and carry basis at temporary sales forums as defined by Cincy. Events which meet any or all of the following criteria are not considered temporary sales forums. And these would not last, this wouldn't come up a lot, but I do want to be sure that you understand you can't do an event that lasts more than 24 days. And you cannot do an event that occurs more than once during any given 6-week period. The event takes place in an established retail environment, which we'll talk more about here in a minute. Cannot do it then. Events which meet any of these 3 criteria, no matter their name or title, are not temporary sales forums. So you want to be sure that you're following policy. Cincy consultants cannot participate in a mall event. And now this is a cash and carry basis. If you wanted to get a table at your local mall's spring festival, you could do a business opportunity only and promote parties only at the mall, but you cannot have cash and carry there. So very important that you understand that. It also cannot take place in the parking lot of the retail establishment or at a base exchange. And here I've talked about it again. At a retail establishment or base exchange, consultants are allowed to set up one of each product. You can have catalogs, order forms, you can take orders, but absolutely no cash and carry. Violation of this policy could result in suspension of a consultant's account or termination, and I can tell you this happens often. Consultants must put the policy on the letter application to the event coordinator and include the Cincy Events Policy page from the Resources tab. If you go to the Resources tab of your workstation, there is a Events Policy page you can print off to include with your application. Again, just another way you can make sure they understand our policy. And you want to be sure you understand and have read the policies thoroughly so that you can do a good job of representing Cincy. Everyone should get their feet wet and try it at least once. As I said, just start out small. Events can be really great for recruiting, for new customers, for bookings. They're a lot of fun. And it gives you an opportunity to work with other team members as well. And you want to be sure if you're going to do an event with another teammate that in advance you work out every detail you can possibly think of. Talk to your upline director or upline superstar director about this to be sure you have a good expectation and idea of how you should work a booth with other team members to avoid any conflict. Decide what payment methods you're going to take. I only accept cash or charge. I do not accept any checks. That's, again, up to you, but I just do not. And that is the end of our presentation. So I am going to now look at the questions and answers and see what we've got here. I guess that would be questions, actually. Let's see. How do you get people to enter the drawing? I highlight it in the sections and tell them to make sure to enter and nothing. Interesting. I have never had that problem. Whenever they come to my table, one of the first things that I talk when I'm talking about them, their smell, the scents, and so forth, is I say, be sure to enter my drawing. And while they're filling it out, I'm actually still communicating with them, and that's when I say to them, please be sure to include an email address so that I can get you on my newsletter and you can get my once-a-month specials. And again, 9 times out of 10, people who actually do that for me. Let's see. Yes, this call is being recorded for that person who asked. Will you please repeat the names of the credit card ideas? Do you need to have high-tech phones? Okay, there's 2 different ones that I personally use, but there's a lot if you just get on the internet and Google. The most common one that most consultants use, and I use for my backup plan, is Square. You would go to squareup.com, and you would need a Droid or a iPhone to use that. The other option that I use, because I do a lot of volume, is I go through Costco, which is like a Sam's Club, but not. And I know Sam's Club actually has it too. I've just never priced them. Costco, if you're an executive member, their credit card processing at the time 2 years ago when I was researching it happened to be the least inexpensive. I actually purchased a swiper. They have a wide variety of options, but I went with the least inexpensive. It was $79, and if I kept it for a year, they refunded me the $79. I do pay a monthly fee. I think I spend around $11 a month, and then my percentage that I use, it's 1.67%, so it's a very low percentage, and I could take American Express and Discover. I just have to pay a little higher percentage with those cards as well. So for me, it's a better option, but for most consultants that I know in my area, they're using Square. So you can look into that and see what you think is a good option for you. Let's see. I use a tablet and process right through my workstation, no credit card charges. That's a great idea. That's great. If you want to do that, that's perfect. So what she's saying is she automatically, it looks like, has like an order set up in her computer in her workstation, and then she just applies the individual's credit cards right then towards that order that she's going to be ordering. So you can definitely do that. This person says, I use ProPay for my credit card processing. I have a swipe thing that connects to my phone. You can also do online or telephone. So thank you for sharing that with us. If your hair salon is wanting to have an event after hours or on a day of the week that the salon is closed, is that allowed? I have seen this come up a lot, and from what I understand is as long as it is after hours, it's not don't do cash and carry. Just do a typical display and do a business opportunity, and you would be fine. And just deliver the product to the customers outside of the retail environment. You'd be fine. If I set up an event, should I consider insurance for the place or have everyone do their own? Whenever I've done events with if I'm the consultant who actually got the event, then I'm the one who I use my insurance. You know, when I send in my insurance information, it's on me. So that's how I've done it. Okay, well, that's all the questions that I have. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. For those of you that are wanting to join, oh, I got another question here real quick. Hold on. What about flea markets? Can you do cash and carry? Absolutely cannot do cash and carry at a flea market. No flea markets. Can you repeat the question? Well, I don't know what the question was now. I apologize